one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in HEX on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call HEX, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast. We are here for another live stream, the first one with PulseChain actually live and operating with a bridge that not so much, but it's getting there anyway. So the unclogging, as Salmi would say, is happening right now. So how you doing? I am Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. We have a huge show for you tonight because, if you are a Hexakin, if you are a PulseChain, whatever it may be, and you've been here for the first, I guess it's now the 5th day of the PulseChain launch with a bridge on its 2nd or 3rd day, there's a lot that's been going on. So it's going to be a pulse-heavy show. We're going to attack it from all ways. If you are just listening on the back end on the podcast, the thumbnail is indicative that we are talking what is the best bridging strategy for any assets that you want to bridge over into PulseChain from the Ethereum side. And there's a lot of different ways to look at it. There's been plenty of huge mistakes made and plenty of, maybe life-changing buys that are going to be made that has some people very happy and some people very salty, which we're going to get to all of. We also may have a bit of a hair removal tonight. So for more on that and some general vibes of how we are doing now the PulseChain is live, I'm going to send it over to Crypto Ewok. Ewok, how are you feeling tonight? And what can you tell me about this hairy situation?
Well, it is a hairy situation. And, the PulseChain beard is no longer of use, I guess. And I did kind of get a little attached to it. So, still a little hesitant to do this, but I think we're going to remove it. It's time. It's been a good year and 2 months in the making. Probably time for a little trim. So, but yeah, I can't be more excited about everything that's going on, man. It's been a whirlwind of a week and lots of just opportunities left and right in front of us. And can't be more excited.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So we will get to shavening here throughout the course of the evening. If you are watching this later on, maybe on like a 2X, you may just see that Ewok's beard kind of shrinks over the course of an episode. So you may have a little bit of a cool time lapse on your hands. So look out for that. But if you guys are here and enjoy the show, hit the like, subscribe to the channel as well. We won't get way into this again, but last week we talked about how we've consolidated things a little bit. I changed the Broke Boi Crypto channel just over to the Creed of Crypto channel. So this is our channel. So this is the place to see the show every single week, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hit the like. We very much appreciate it. Hit us up with some comments in the chat, because we do want to know what you're doing, some of the troubles, the issues you face, and some of the successes too with PulseChain so far. Because we've got all kinds of different stories. I know myself, and I'll ask you too, Ewok, but there's so many people within the Hex community on Twitter, on YouTube, that just valiant efforts, I think, by a lot of people with good intentions that are sharing their experiences so far, sharing what might be going on with them, and giving some tips and things to other people trying to get in to the market. We're not going to give, obviously, specific financial advice here. I heard some people the other night in the Twitter space really pressing Katie, I think, for camera's blurry. Thanks for the heads up. Weird. I'll have to check on what's going on. I don't have the Ethernet thing plugged in here. That's why. Where was I going with that? Yeah, Katie the other night had some people asking for like some real specific information in the Twitter space. She didn't want to give it out, and I understand that completely. But I'm going to fix this camera situation. But let me ask you, what have you kind of encountered? Because again, I've been like on YouTube myself, even trying to see what are the tribulations other people are going through, trying to bridge over and stuff like that. What's your experience been so far as like seeking that out? What are your comments on like kind of the community helping each other out? What's your experience personally been trying to bridge stuff over?
So I think mostly we're just getting tips and tricks. I don't think anybody should really be giving any kind of you should do this or you should do that. Um, easy ways for people to, well, I mean, let's start with the first step, right? You want people to be able to easily switch to PulseChain from their MetaMask wallet or whatever. So, one of the best tips and tricks for that is just going to pulsechain.com. There is a button there that says connect to MetaMask. You hit the button, your MetaMask wallet opens up and it says, do you wish to connect to the wallet? Boom, you're already connected with all the accurate settings. You don't have to worry about a scammer getting the wrong, chain number or anything like that where they could compromise your wallet. So, let's start there. That's like the first thing to do.
Mhm.
The next thing to do is to go to pulsex.com and act like you're going to do some trades. Once you get the network hooked up, act like you're going to do some trades and pick a couple different coins. And beside each coin, you're going to see a little Firefox logo. If you click the fox, it will automatically add that coin right into the wallet again, eliminating the chance of you getting the wrong contract address or whatever it might be, because there are a lot of manual steps to that. So you could go through all those coins and go ahead and add them. So that's the first two things that I tell people to do that I've onboarded, at least, and say they say, what should I be doing? And a lot of times I'm like, well, nothing really, but you don't need to act or anything right now. Um, with the bridge being in the state that it's in, just a couple days old, there is a lot of backlog. It's amazing to see how many millions of dollars are just sitting there waiting to be, introduced to our network. Crazy also to see the statistics on the amount of volume that was done in the first couple days, topped all of Uniswap, SushiSwap, PancakeSwap, all those combined. There was more volume done in PulseX swap in the first couple days than all of those other ones combined, and the amount of coins that are just being burned, it's crazy. I could go on and
Mhm.
just rant about this forever, but those are some of the tips that I've been giving anyway. I don't want to tell people what coin to bridge. I don't like them getting stuck right now, because it is a scary thing waiting a couple days, maybe until your coins actually show up. So,
Right.
can freak people out. People that are new to crypto don't know what happened to my coin. They may not understand. So it's
Yeah.
something I would rather not talk them into doing right away until things become a little bit smoother.
Yeah, agree with you on all fronts, and I'm gonna direct us in another direction here. Then I'm gonna hop off and hop back on to clear up the camera real quick, just while you're answering it. But I'm with you 100%. Yeah, and those little things are really important, like you said, in terms of making sure you have the right coins added to your MetaMask wallet under the Pulse chain. RPC, obviously, making sure you have the right coins added in the actual decks of PulseX. Like if you have your ERC-20 airdrops and things like that, adding those in. That information is all out there, and I think there have been plenty of people that have made like instructional videos on that. Somebody I will shout out, and there's been many, so like I'm not trying to exclude anybody here, but I personally found it's Crypto Graphics, I think. You know who he is?
I know of him. I don't think I've ever met him in person, but he's been around the
Yeah,
hex community for a while.
Yeah, he made some really good instructional videos for people, I think, as far as like getting to, set up at the bridge. I really appreciated his stuff. But yeah, there's just so much going on. And it's a natural thing to feel this urge to just get in ASAP. There's all these different things going on. Maybe not necessarily click the buy or sell button so quickly. But even I told you this morning, and then after you made fun of me a couple hours later, you did the same thing. But even I told you like I'm bridging this over, and and I understand it. We're all collecting information piece by piece. The other day, that was the big question, is like, what am I bridging over? What should I bridge over and all this? And I saw, a lot of people were bridging over hex. And so I did bridge over a little bit of hex last night. And then I see like, oh, okay, it looks like that wrapped hex in theory, whatever you want to call it, your eHEX Ethereum hex version on PulseChain is, fractions of what it was on ETH. Maybe not fractions, but at the time, it was only about 2/3 of the price, or 67% of the price on Ethereum hex. I sent it over when it was just over 3 cents. Then I see, oh, okay, right now it's 2.2 cents or something on Pulse. And I'm like, shit. And I'm trying to think, what am I to do? Because I wanted to buy Pulse or PulseX. And I think this was probably born out of this idea and happening to people. I saw Johnny Chaos and I sent it to you, and he had a great idea. It's like when you have lemons, turn it into lemonade. And he was showing like, even when you get this wrapped eHEX over here to PulseChain, this was at that time. It's not the case anymore. But earlier today, even though you were getting that hex, the wrapped hex at like 2.2 cents, pHEX over on PulseChain was still half that at the time. So you could double your pHEX basically, even with that devalued bridged hex, which is what my plan was. Well, it's still not over there, so I'm nothing I can do. And also they're trading at near parity now. So it's the bridged eHEX is still more valuable, but got to have a game plan. And remember too, and this is what I just said to you before we came on the air, and I'm not trying to make it all about my experience with this hex bridge, but I do think it's important because I think a lot of people have done this exact thing. Remember that when it gets over there, that doesn't mean you have to just get out of it or get out from underneath it and trade it right away. We can just wait. Yeah. So talk about that. Like, there's try to hop in and FOMO buy and everything and FOMO bridge or whatever you want to say. But talk about that a little bit. Like, you can still bridge funds over in, the token of your choice based on the data that you're seeing and everything, but you don't necessarily have to make moves right away.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I think it's a good strategy to even just get some funds over there. And you're right, you don't have to do anything with it. Um, you disappeared there. I was like, oh, he must be fixing his camera. Anyway, so yeah, one of the best things I think to do is to actually just get coins over there, get prepared. We know, again, there's a lot of liquidity that's waiting to enter the market. There's going to be a lot of things that happen. But when you're prepared and you have coins where you may want, strategize now. If it plays out, great. If it doesn't, then you can alter. Like you said, something happened this morning, and then you saw another good deal that you possibly could have done. Well, you could have been ready for it, So it's not always going to be your first choice, probably on what's going to happen, and your game plan is probably never going to go 100%. But you can always change to something better when you see a good deal. Jump on it if you're prepared. If you're not, and now you have to bridge money over or value of any token, whatever it may be, it's going to take a while and you may miss the opportunity. So, one of the big reasons, and you and I had talked about this too, is I'm more putting the hex over. I put just a little bit, probably a quarter of what I wanted to do, but just as a test, I wanted to see how long it took. But my goal is to create a pHEX eHEX trading pair once it reaches parity, for the simple fact of farming. If they do reach parity and there's enough liquidity tied together with those two, I really don't see the pair altering too much away from each other. So that means less impermanent loss, probably more fees, because there's going to be people trading in and out of that pair constantly. And to get, I think maybe to stake on the Pulse network, or they could bridge back out, whatever it may be. I think it's going to be a heavily liquid pair with the opportunity of making some really nice fees. And it may even be one of those farm pairs that you can earn incentive token, which has been really nice, because those incentive tokens at one point were up to $30. I think they're down to $3 or $4 now. But there's also been talk of Richard possibly using that incentive token to tie into the wallet, which he said has been done for a while. I don't know if there'll be a sacrifice. I don't know, sacrifices to get people to do a sacrifice right now after waiting this long. I think you might be having some trouble getting some value. But again, it's a Richard Hart product, so people believe, and if they do decide to use the incentive token somehow, some way, rather than just a reward token that people are going to dump, um, it can be beneficial. So I really don't want to get rid of those either.
Yeah, I hear you there. Yeah, I saw when it was up over 20 the other day. So
And your
obviously
camera's
everything.
looking much better, by the way.
Yeah, I had a feeling as soon as I got out and came back in, it would fix it. So that is good. But yeah, I did see it was over $20 the other day, and it's a good thing to know too. I mean, like everything obviously on PulseChain is dragged down right now, and people are like, "Well, why isn't Pulse pumping?" Well, there's no money. I mean, like we're waiting for it to get through. So I did just throw in the chat, and we're going to review this pulseburn.com. It's actually plsburn.com that somebody created, I think, shortly after PulseChain actually launched. But there's actually even progress of the bridge at the top showing that we're at about 20.5% through. So we're at 44.5 million USD has been attempted to be bridged over so far. Just over 9 million has successfully made it. So they actually have a tracker right on there, which is pretty great.
We're going to
And you
share it.
can,
Hang on one second. I'll bring it up here.
yeah, go ahead. Yep, I put it in the chat too for everybody. But yeah, we might as well just look into this now because this is a good tool, I think, for everybody. Now, some of the data you can see just like on the DEX, like on PulseX, but there's a lot of stuff on here in terms of the transactions, the volume, liquidity pairs, and things like that. Gas prices, which are going to be very important, obviously, to people.
Burns. That's cool.
Burns, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So let me see. Did you have it up? Yeah, go
Yep.
ahead. So what do you think of this? And this is, I will just say, another great example of like someone within the community or somebody that isn't, a dev or straight from Richard Hart or whatever, creating an awesome tool for everybody from the get go, just out of nowhere. So yeah, what do you make
Well,
of it?
man, this community has always been awesome with the tools that have been created by them, and it just it never surprises me when I see stuff like this and the amazing tools. Here's a list of the validators, all the gas prices. They're pulling a lot of data from all these different sites and combining it into just one place. It's pretty awesome. But again, it does not surprise me. Here's a quick add to, you can add your pulse chain to your MetaMask right here.
Mm,
Again, always recommend going to the native site to do it. But you know, these guys have all kind of information added here. The coin supply, we've already got 14 billion pulse X burned just from
yeah,
the buy and burn feature alone, and it hasn't even been a week.
yeah,
14 billion um, out of the 143. Now 143 trillion is a lot, um, and you got 834 million burned of the pulse supply, and all of that comes from the validators that are burning their own rewards. So I know Richard had said if you wanted to set up a validator and set your reward function to a burn address, here's the address, and it'll be burned right away. So rather than redistribute and inflate the coin, it would be totally deflationary. But I
hmm
don't see a whole lot of the community spending a couple grand to get a validator set up and just burn their rewards. It's not something that I would do personally, but yeah, no, this is a very cool tool. I like it a lot. They've added the whole bridge thing is new within the last day or so.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's awesome to see though, because I mean that's what really everybody's problem is right now.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
this is kind of problem 2.0. We're going to get to the first, and when I say problem, I don't mean like there's a lot of people out there like is Pulse Chain a failed launch and all this stuff. Look, this I can say the way I look at it, but I think this is just how it is. I mean, there is high demand for this stuff being a Richard Hart product, being, he's created Hex already.
Mhm.
which there's a fever pitch, crazy cult like community over. And then there's a 2-year wait from the sacrifice of Pulse anyway to this thing going live. So this is what you're going to get. You're going to get just like millions of dollars, obviously, and many, many, many people just waiting to get into this thing.
Yeah.
And it is, I think it just speaks to it. I saw you saw what I, not that he's going to read, of course, but commented under one of his tweets today about that he was actually, how funny is it? We haven't talked about this yet, but Richard actually coming out today on Twitter and just asking people not to attempt to bridge
Yeah.
anything else. I mean,
Yeah.
at the moment anyway.
Well, he he's just trying to pass the word along. Hey, slow down. If we can get caught up once the load is, they're trying a few different things. I don't know if you caught it just a little bit ago too, but they have some fixes that they're working on testnet. They wanted people to go over to that network and kind of bang on it
I
there a
did.
little
Yeah.
bit. So too, now it wasn't the bridge. I'm not sure what it was for exactly,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, so it's cool to have the test net still running in parallel, so that they can add fixes there, test them out, and then deploy them onto mainnet. Guy, this is you and I were talking about this before we even started. When there are problems like this, it just means the opportunity is the best. When Hex first launched, there were a few hiccups here and there. Couldn't get things to do certain things. There were bugs and there were errors. The contract was always fine. The same with Pulse. But there are little hiccups and you work through them. But you just know that when you're this early, there are going to be problems. So
Mhm.
instead of complaining about them, take advantage of some of the opportunities that we have. This is the chance to make life changing wealth. It's just incredible, and I get so upset when I see people bitching and moaning because things don't work 100%. It was, come on, launch it, come on, launch it, come, and then when it launched, there were things wrong, and now they're pissed off that there's things wrong. So you can't please everybody. You'll never please everybody all the time. But just know, man, that this is opportunity in your face when things are like this. And we are still early. I mean, I can't imagine how many people may still not even know that it's live.
Oh yeah.
People that have stepped away from crypto, they thought maybe it was a scam or a rug pull after 2 years. How many people still don't even know? And we're seeing the volume that we're seeing and the coins burn. It's only going to get better, and especially as this bull market picks up in get some force behind it. Yeah, look out, man! It's going to be exciting. It's crazy.
And I think it's not even that people that may have sacrificed a little bit and were like, "Oh, I don't care about this" or forgot about it. But I think there's even, I heard somebody talking today about like a friend or somebody they know that they onboarded that maybe didn't even take crypto that seriously or whatever. And like you said, don't even know that it's here or anything because they're not psychos like we are with this stuff every single day. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So I think there is plenty of that. And again, until I couldn't underline what you said more. The idea that this is what opportunity looks like is completely true. It's harder to get funds in. It's there's going to be more risk up front. Like this is the great paradox. People want to just go on Coinbase or Kraken and buy like Ripple
they
or
yep
yeah,
they want to
Polygon
hit the
Matic.
easy button. That's what they
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, and this is going to be, no, I understand. People that are just going to do that or just buying a little bit of Bitcoin and Ethereum aren't going to be doing this right now.
Right.
However, they're likely not really in DeFi anyway. But when it's more difficult like this, and you see a line, there is an overwhelming line. We have $30 million outstanding trying to get in to this ecosystem right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's phenomenal. Like this is what you want to be happening, and I understand. Like, understand this too for anybody that's pissed off because like they have funds.
35 $35 million still
Yeah,
outstanding.
Yeah, like I understand like people have funds in limbo, not really in limbo, but I mean on the blockchain, totally secure, totally safe, waiting to get over there. And they want to buy at these prices, but understand like these prices wouldn't be there if the money was in there.
Right.
So it's kind of a catch 22. I mean, like, yes, some people are going to get a crazy deal better than sacrifice. And I really don't see much of an issue with that. I mean, like, still, like you just said, Ewok, we've got 2 long years to come here, maybe even longer than 2 years. 2024, 2025, in my opinion, we're going to have, hot prices. The bull market's going to be back, and Pulse and PulseX are going to fly probably harder than most things on the market.
Yeah.
So if you sacrificed, I mean, I still look at it like you got in on the ground floor just because, like, things open up. PulseX has dipped like 90-ish% already and come back up a little bit. Um, you were still there at the beginning, and you may still have an opportunity to buy at some of these levels. You have plenty of time to DCA. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't be upset at all. And I won't be upset if I'm unable to get like some of these discounts off the sack price right now. So,
Yeah, I saw people
um,
bitching about that too. Like, here I waited 2 years to get and now the price is lower than that. I wouldn't have even had to wait. But would you have been in the same situation? Would your coins have been the same value as they were when you sacrificed? Actually, no, they wouldn't, because
mhm,
everything is down even further than it was 2 years ago. So you wouldn't have got the same deal. You wouldn't have had those coins already sitting on the network ready to go for you on day one. If you wanted to make some trades, there were some good trades out there. We did recommend that you didn't do that, but there were a couple good deals to be had, and we were the only ones to be able to capitalize on those. So,
mhm.
just remember that just because, yes, there are some deals right now that people are getting that are better than the sacrifice price, all that means is it's opportunity for you to double your
Mhm.
bag, with a lot less money, or at least increase it. Take advantage of it. This is still DCA time. It could go even lower. So
Mhm.
put a little bit in and wait. We're still less than a week old. I told you guys that, Hex didn't bottom until 33 days. So
Right.
we've got a couple more weeks here of a lot of this bridge getting ironed out, a lot of money still coming in, 35 more $1 million at least sitting there right now. Who knows where it's going to go, what liquidity pairs. Once liquidity gets better, things are going to work themselves out. The price will work, in our favor. I think once we find a floor, um, yeah, just there's so much opportunity. I
Just
can we
continue to
answer
be
this
patient.
question though
Yes,
here?
I want you to answer that. I just want to follow up and say what you said. Like some of the people that are upset about like the sacrifice thing, like, oh, I shouldn't have even sacrificed. Like, who's to say you would have even be able to get funds in at this rate right now? I mean, like, there's
Right?
no way that you can rely on that. And yeah, I agree with you 100% too. Like, if you want to look at these prices, and that's ultimately what I did this morning. I saw what was happening. I saw everything dipping, and the
Mhm.
people were waiting. And I'm like, I'll be damned if I'm not going to at least try to get a bullet in the chamber. So,
Yeah.
I went ahead and at least started a bridge because I figured maybe tomorrow it'll be in or something like that.
Well, and
So,
even that with liquidity being as thin as it is, if you put 5 grand in right now, you're going to push the price so far up that you may
mhm,
not get a good deal. And then somebody else could just sell it right back down and screw
right,
you.
right.
So, it may seem like a good deal right away, but it may not be because of the very thin liquidity. Um, People that put in substantial amounts of money, they would push the price so far away that it would not become a good deal by the end of the trade. So
And I do think that number you said is relatively accurate. I actually do think right now, literally between like a 2K to 5K buy would would really like move some of these
yeah,
prices
it really
a
would.
decent bit. So yeah, go ahead. Let's take a look at some
So
questions here.
user 23 asks, what do you need to do when you try to farm on PulseX and you get the message insufficient funds for gas? He claims that he has more than enough PulseChain. So the best thing to do is make sure that your settings in your MetaMask have the custom gas prices turned on, and you can select either slow, medium, or fast. I would select the fast network. That way, if it doesn't need all the gas, it won't use it. It'll only use what it needs to fill that block. But make sure that your custom gas settings are turned on, or even up the priority a little bit. It's a better tip for the validators. It will make sure that it goes through. I haven't had that happen hardly at all. All the transactions that I've done have gone through. So it's just an error that I haven't really seen. So
Cool.
hopefully that helps. And
Yeah, hopefully that's it.
Crypto Elite says I got 103 ETH stuck in the bridge.
It's a lot of ETH.
That is a lot of ETH. No, it's not lost. It's just they're so backed up right now. You're going to have to give it some time. As we showed here, we'll pull this back up. I'll show you the total right now. The bridge is only 20%. So that means they're out of $44.9 million, only 9 million of it has processed. That's how far behind they are. So,
and they're still upside down because, like, since I've opened this page and been tracking it since the start of the show, it's actually gone down 0.3%. So the amount trying to get in is continuing to increase while the amount actually making it is staying the same. So
still people adding to it. You know, they're trying to get work through. Richard had put out a tweet earlier today saying, you know, the old transactions, they can only do them 100 at a time. Or it gives an error. So they were working on that. But no, your money is, your Ethereum is not lost. You're just going to have to be patient. It's there. It will come across when they get to that transaction. There's probably that many more in front of you. So depending on when you did it, I think they're still going in order. You know, it's not anything that they're skipping over people or anything like that, but it'll be there eventually. Just hang tight.
Yeah, just wait it out. And it is a caution. You know, we may forget because we have done this so many times, but even especially with bridging, you know, a lot of the people doing this right now have never had this happen before and have never been through this before. And from my experience with bridging, like on Phantom before and stuff like that, even in normal times, something like that would be sometimes like a 20-minute wait. It wouldn't be as quick as like, oh yeah, I pay a gas fee and I made my purchase or whatever. I mean, it did take some time. Now, this is obviously unique. This is not the same thing. But remember, and this is what I would caution people to do. And you and I were talking about this earlier today, Ewok. But if you're on the bridge, is it actually pulseramp.com, or I forget the actual
Anyway, no, it is bridged. They changed it back to the bridge.pulsechain.com.
Okay, so if you go to the top of that page there and you have your wallet connected already, you have to have your wallet connected because it has to know where you actually did the transaction from. But it will have a link at the top that says transactions with a little clock symbol. Click on that and it'll show you any transactions, any bridges that you have made. This is like the beauty of the blockchain and everything being out there for you. So you click on it. Yeah, it takes you over to Etherscan. It'll show you the progress and you can just keep hitting refresh, as I have been doing all day, looking at the block confirmations on your transaction. And as long as that number is like going up, I mean, it's there. It's being worked on and it will get there. So don't worry about that. It's just good to be familiar with all that so you know how to actually research your bridge. So anyway.
So just this last, I'll answer this one real quick. Also read that they get hacked easily. The problem is the people that control the bridges. Those are the people that usually operate the hack. Richard and his developers went through all of the bridges that were out there and picked the most secure one, the one that has never been hacked. So yeah, I think you're over worrying, which you probably, a little bit newer to using bridges. Don't worry. Like Broke Boy just said, check your transaction. It's on the blockchain. It's there. It's waiting. So no, nothing's been hacked. They're just that far behind. So hang in there.
Yeah, be patient yet again. But everybody, if you are here and enjoying the stream so far, we got a lot more to get into. Hit the like. We very much appreciate it. We do this show every single Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the Creed of Crypto podcast. I'm Broke Boy Crypto. That's Crypto Ewok. Let's talk about this nobody has pulse debacle, because that really, and not you or I really, and we also discovered that faucet the other night. Shout out to your friend Sami again on that one.
Yeah.
But so yeah, a big problem for a lot of people. Now, I think it was good that even for people, we know that most people sacked for PulseX of the two, obviously, not for PulseChain. They got into it a little bit later, which is understandable. It was a sacrifice that took place 6 months after the fact. You have your razor on? Yeah, you do. Oh, you're already going. Okay, all right. I was gonna say I was gonna bring that up. Holy shit, he's going through it right now. Okay. So as Ewok
We're
does
getting
begin,
started.
as Ewok begins the shaving process of the pulse beard, boy, I about lost my where was I going with this?
I
Oh,
don't even
so
know.
okay. So many people, sacked for Pulse X, obviously, and they were given one pulse to kind of transact at the beginning of the network. Well, that kind of quickly became a joke because transactions were taking, a couple hundred pulse to 1,500 pulse or something like that. You may want to mute your mic while you're while you're actually.
Is that distracting you?
It is slightly distracting. It's not like overbearing, but it's there. So yeah, so people had one pulse, and I will say, for anybody who did anything like right away whenever they got their tokens, I know the first thing I did, and you watching, you probably did the same thing. Any of you who sacked for Pulse or Pulse X, I wanted to move my stuff out right away just to get it to not necessarily a more secure wallet, but just it's been sitting there for a year or whatever, a year and a half, 2 years. So just wanted to move it out. So that was the first thing I did. That cost like fraction of a pulse. I mean, it was nothing. And then quickly, of course, we saw things, you go to that PLS burn right now, and it's 1,600 pulse roughly to make a Pulse X swap, 98 to send pulse, and 700 to send a PRC-20 of any kind. So that's where we're at now. That beard's coming off very nicely, actually. Wow, that's coming off quick. Very nice. So the debacle then became for the people that had Pulse X, and frankly wanted to dump it and buy Pulse, likely, or something like that. Or frankly, maybe they just wanted to, maybe they had other ERC-20s that they thought wouldn't be worth anything on PulseChain and wanted to trade them out. Well, they quickly realized they couldn't do any of that because they didn't have enough Pulse to transact. And that kind of became the big problem, is how were any of these people going to get Pulse? So Ewok, as good of a job as you're doing on the reconstruction there so far, could you kind of speak to that, kind of how people were dealing with that issue of like this great conundrum of like, you don't have enough, you have your tokens, but you don't have enough pulse to do anything actually.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, it was one of the benefits, though, of sacrificing. So they were the only ones that were able to do anything. And you're right. At the early onset of it, yeah, it was cheap. It was 0.00 whatever it was, and then the network became just crazy busy. So, yeah, it was there was a conundrum. Again, only the people that sacrificed large amounts could do anything. But then when you're looking at it, I'm like, I don't want to spend 2,000, pulse on a transaction right now when I know it
Right.
should be a lot lower. But then you think about it, and what's the value of 2,000 pulse? Well, it's really not that much. It's still fractions of a penny, probably. So, yeah, I mean, it's part of the congestion. And then you had guys like the Vampire, who decided to launch again on PulseChain to stress test the network. I really think he was trying to break it. To be honest
I
with
mean,
you,
he literally like said he was. I
yeah.
mean,
So,
yeah.
I just, again, and then he, I don't know if you caught this or not, but he was asking people for Pulse because they ran out of money. So that's another good
Mhm.
thing about it costing so much, is people that were trying to spam the network ran out. If they didn't sacrifice, they ran out. So it
Right.
was kind of a blessing in disguise that the prices went up that high. So,
Mhm.
I just I found the whole thing interesting, how it was all playing out, and the fees worked out to the benefit of the holders, because again, people didn't have that much, so they couldn't really
Right.
do anything. The only ones that had it were the sacrificers. So
Hmm.
There you go. There's your reason why I sacrificed, so that
Hmm.
you could do things early.
I think the main reason you sacrifice were just for crazy long-term gains, but yes, also
Well,
that
that
obviously.
too, yeah. But
Yeah, but and it is good to have that. I mean, like some people were stuck right away, and we have seen, and keep your eyes peeled, folks, for these little faucets that are popping up because we saw that one last night. You and I both hopped on, and it worked for me. I was able to get like you did too, 2,500 pulse to one of the
yeah,
wallets,
yeah.
which.
Even though it gave an error, it's still
Hmm,
it still showed in the wallet. Now I did a couple more, and I didn't end up checking those. Um, but even shout out to the community. Some of the people in the community were just handing out 2,000 at a time too. I thought that was
true.
really cool. That people were asking them for funds, and they were just giving it to them. So I mean, I thought that was pretty. This community, never fails to amaze me and the people. So
Yeah,
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 pretty cool.
definitely good. And to the benefit of a lot of people, I mean, I think that's a good idea from people because you got to remember, like, a lot of these people have sacrificed like so much and have so many Pulse tokens right now that it probably even was kind of beneficial to them to pass that on and have more people be able to use the network early on. So, definitely good. So, people are going to help provide liquidity as well. So, we are slowly going to have the people not having Pulse debacle saved or turned around. So that is coming. So keep your eyes peeled for faucets. Just continue to be patient. And I know it's really hard right now. There's so much action and you want to get in on it, but we are going to get there. So let's talk real quick about what PulseX and Pulse have done performance-wise so far. And I'm really interested in this concept. I was thinking about this the other day. So obviously, we've already talked about everybody that is sacrificed for Pulse and PulseX. PulseX basically opened at about 70% under the SAC price. As we sit here right now, the whole theme of the show, we've been talking about everything's been dumping because there's no money over there. So as we sit here right now, PulseX, it would be trading at 4 zeros and a 178. So that would put us
Which
about.
pair are you talking about? Sorry, I'm gonna
I,
pull up
I'm
deck
just looking at
screener.
die to PulseX right now. So if you want to pull that out, yeah, anything, any kind of whatever you can with PulseX compared to the dollar,
Pulse
basically.
Pulse X to die.
But we're down over 80% at this moment. So PulseX is nearing the lowest it's been. It actually was even lower than this just earlier on the stream. So we're at about 80, a little over 80% down from SAC price for PulseX. Remember, if you're calculating SAC price for either of these, you want to go with 3 zeros and a 1. So 0.0001.
Yeah, now we have
Um,
4 zeros and a 1.
mhm, yeah. All it rounded up to a 2 on the site, and that'll actually show
Yeah,
you that on the top of the
well, it's
of
zero zero
PulseX.
zero zero 1803.
Yeah, there you
So,
go.
yeah, deck screener has been pretty cool
Mhm.
with all the pairs and pulling it. And I don't know if you noticed or not, I am sharing my screen, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
I got it.
Over here on the left, how when it first launched, PulseChain was all the way down here at the bottom, and it's based on liquidity and trading. So it's moved all the way up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 now, which surprises
Wow.
me that it's not even a little bit higher with all the trades that have been going on. I know
Mhm.
the volume of trades surpassed a lot of these put together. So, but yeah, pretty cool that it can't get above optimism or Polygon yet, but no, it's got a lot of really cool pairs.
Yeah, it definitely does. And then looking at Pulse right now, so Pulse actually was performing really well right out of the gate. It was actually up 2 or 3x at one time. At this point right now, though, it is below the SAC rate. And if the other thing we're going to get into in a minute is the Pulse to Pulse X ratio, which has been something that's really been solid. But Pulse down in relation to Pulse X about where you would think it would be. So it is at 4 zeros and a 6.5. So that would roughly be
6681. So
yeah, so that's putting us down at about 35% down for Pulse right now from the SAC price. So it makes sense. So Pulse X is on about a 3 times more of a discount than Pulse
Hmm.
Chain, which is right in line with what the ratio has been. So
Yep. Yep.
that's kind. Go ahead, sorry, and then I'll follow up with
No, that just goes to show you that look that the tight liquidity pairs, which are Pulse and Pulse X, is the only one that is active in the farm right now, I think. Um, is the Pulse X pair. So they're moving together. And that's what the bonding, the Hart's law, it just goes to show you that it's true how it works. When things are bonded together, they move together. So it's
you.
pretty cool how it worked out.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the more interesting thing I wanted to get to. Now, it's very interesting that they're both way under the SAC price and I mean, screaming buy right now for all of those. And then pHEX, excuse me. Now, it was at somewhat parity with eHEX for a little while. It's hard to take a lot of these numbers too seriously again because of the lack of liquidity, but actually, pHEX right now is looking at about a little over half a penny. So it looks like it's at about 0.0065. So
Yeah.
and then actual eHEX is just under 3 cents right now. So
Yeah.
um yeah. So we'll see where that goes. And like I said earlier in the show, I mean, if you were to bridge over, I'm not doing it anymore. Not recommending or telling anybody what to do. I personally am only really interested in bridging over DAI at this point in time right now. I mean, that could literally change like in a week. But in terms of hex right now, you're going to be taking it on the chin once it gets over to the bridge. It's not going to be the USD value that your eHEX was. So keep that
Right.
in mind.
Right. So unless you plan on providing liquidity, which, like I said, that's
Mhm.
the reason I moved it over. Um, I would just hold off on doing anything, or, like you said, um, hold on or bridge die. So,
Mhm.
Oscar, no one stole any ETH.
Oh, I did
So,
see that. Yeah.
sorry, I just caught it, but
It's still out there. Yeah, rewind the show a little bit. Just it's on the blockchain, and you have to know where to go and click on the transaction button at the top of Pulse Bridge. You need to go there, and you need to actually track it with the wallet that you used. So it is out there. It's just not over to the Pulse side yet. I was really interested though in Chase's question right below. He said, "Could you discuss the hex parity? Why we aren't thinking of ratio tied to the market share between ETH and Pulse?" So we kind of touched on this, but they were near parity for a very short period of time. Now we're seeing pHEX trading at a little over half a penny. eHEX is just under 3 cents. So what do you think about that, Ewok?
I just, again, I think it's the liquidity, it's the bonding, and I think
Mhm.
what's going to happen is they're kind of waiting for more parity to happen before that farm pair goes live to ensure that it stays. Once that goes live, or once we get close to parity, whichever happens, whether eHEX goes up or pHEX goes up or eHEX comes down, whichever one happens first, when we hit that parity, I think that's when that pair launches, and then they kind of just stay together from here on out. But again, we're not even 7 days old, guys. So we've got to be patient. We got to let it play out. We've got to let a lot of money come into the system. It's going to be all over the place. You're going to see massive moves, probably large candles that are 15, 20, 30% at a time, in one way, one direction or another. So yeah, I don't it's early. Let it play out. You're going to see parity here soon. I think it'll happen within a couple weeks. I really do. And then
Yeah.
once it's tied together with the liquidity and it's bonded, um, unless a multi-million-dollar buy comes in on one side, it'll take a little while for the arbitrage bots to kind of bring it back together. But again, I think it'll happen. So.
Oscar clarified his issue a little bit, and I know exactly what's going on. So it sounds like his ETH actually did bridge over already, or he's at least looking at what the price of it would be. So Again, nobody stole anything, but the wrapped ETH. Okay, so you guys do have to realize. So right now, DAI appears to be the only thing that's really coming over. And again, it's a stable coin. We talked about this before the show, Ewok. There was a lot of liquidity provided for DAI in this ecosystem already. So that's why we're seeing it kind of come over tit for tat, dollar for dollar. But I just answered Oscar with my own experience, which actually has been worse than his. So the Ethereum that he bridged over into wrapped Ethereum. So wrapped ETH right now to the dollar on PulseChain is only worth about $1,230. $1,230.
$1,329. And
Okay,
it's got
so in that
very,
range.
yep, right here. This is the actually this is USDC. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This
I'm
is
looking
wrapped.
at DAI to wrapped ETH just
Yep,
on PulseX. Yeah.
yep. That's what I meant to look at, and I didn't pull up the right one.
Now, while you're doing that, I don't even remember because I haven't been looking at the regular market, but ETH is what, at about 1,800, I'm assuming? Yeah, 1,822. So, yeah, you're looking at about a third of your value in ETH won't be there when you get it over there. But remember this. Number one, you don't have to do anything with these funds right away. I've told the story of mine already. My HEX at this present moment, it still isn't bridged over, but it's 80% down off of what it was when I sent it over. So keep in mind, you don't have to trade that ETH the minute it gets over there. It's going to come back up as more liquidity comes into the market. You'll get it, more towards in line with what ETH is actually trading at. Also, remember though, if you did want to trade it, totally up to you. Not recommending you to do it. Totally up to you. But you're only down what 60 or 33% or around 30% or something. PulseX is 80% down from SAC price. Pulse is down 35% from SAC price. pHEX is nowhere near parity with eHEX at this moment. So you can still hypothetically look at these as major discounts, even with the haircut your ETH took on the way over. But you don't have to do anything either. And that's probably what I'd recommend if you're worried about it. So
Yeah, exactly. I'm still having trouble finding it on Pulse Network because when you search for wrapped ETH versus DAI, it's giving you all the other chains that are actually at the right price. So my suggestion would be just to wait it out. And
he already traded it. It sounded like he just left
oh,
another comment. I think he may have already swapped
right.
it out, but it is what it is. Lesson learned. And hey, it was for me too. I mean, it sounds like you were dealing with more than I was, and it did it even sooner than I did it. But remember, you don't have to get rid of this stuff just because you bridged it over. Hang on to it while the liquidity comes in. It'll return to where it needs to go to. There's no rush. So actually, I think in a way, it's good that we have done this bridging now, and no damage done, really. I mean, like, just wait for it to get to where you need it to get when it's over there, and it's at least you'll have your funds over there.
Right. Right. That was my play. That was my play.
Me too. Yeah. All right. So more importantly, actually, if you want to bring up this chart in a minute, Ewok, if you want to look real quick at that pulse to PulseX ratio, because that is the nice thing that has been staying there. We've talked about this, you and I personally, since launch. You just talked about Hart's Law and everything. PulseX has had like 3 times the sackers that Pulse did, and we have seen it basically stay between 3 and 4. I'll say it this way. So you want to look at like Pulse to PulseX. So 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. So basically that you could get 4 PulseX or 3 PulseX for every 1 Pulse you could buy. And that's good that it's remained in that range, whether Pulse was 2 or 3x off of the SAC price, which it was at one point, or now when everything is depressed and they're both way under the SAC price. The fact that that ratio has remained the same, I'm going to pull it up live right now and see what we are at. But last I looked, it was about 3.55 PulseX to Pulse. So, yep, that's exactly where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. That means so the ratio is the Pulse to PulseX is 0.282. It's been as low as like 0.25, 0.02, or 0.25 that I've seen. So that's right in line. It's healthy and it's where you want things to be. And the fact that we've had this much fluctuation and it has stayed there, I think is a really good sign.
Yep, I agree. I agree. And
Yeah.
it's all because of the liquidity that's bonded it so close together. Um, it's playing out perfectly.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Let me ask you this, Ewok, because there's going to be a lot of game theory as people were obviously primarily in eHEX prior to this happening. They got their pHEX copies, they got other ERC-20 copies. But looking at, like, many people will still look at the hex, pulse, pulsex portions of their portfolio as kind of like that Richard Hart ecosystem part of their portfolio. Some people are all in on this. Some people have it as a portion of their portfolio, whatever. But how would you personally, I'm not telling you to recommend anything for anybody else, but just you personally, and I'll share mine too. How would you, as somebody who is like OG Hexagon day one, has the t-shirt literally, what would you like to be allocated with across eHEX, pHEX, and now Pulse and PulseX? Is it something where you want to be even in all three or four or whatever you want to say of those buckets? One way more than the other? How are you kind of looking at it right now?
I still think that Hex is our money printer.
Mhm.
So my opinion hasn't really changed too much. I still think I'm going to stay 60 to 70% Hex. And then probably 15%. Well, I mean, that's all going to change with value, right? Um, as the price goes up, these percentages will change, and I don't think I'll swap out at that point. But that was my goal, was to be about 70% hex and then 15% pulse and 15% pulse X, only because they're at the bottom. Once their value increases, I think hexes will at the same time. So we'll see how they kind of run up together. But I still think hex is the better option. Now, there's been a lot of talk of people selling their eHEX to get it over to pHEX because it's cheaper to transact. Um, what we have to understand is that if people leave the system on eHEX, the payout is going to be better. There's going to be less people staked, which means your hex per T share value goes up. And I think people kind of flock back into that because they want the better rewards. So it's almost like a self correcting system. The rewards kind of make up for whatever it is. If the volume of people go down, the rewards go up, and it kind of entices people to get in there. Money gets treated better over there. So, it self balances, and I just I don't see it changing a whole lot. It may be the rich man's side of things, like the whales may favor that, you know, if they're getting better payouts, but it is more expensive to transact. So
Mhm.
we'll see what happens as parity reaches. Well, it's going to be interesting.
It absolutely will, yeah. Just as a side note, it looks like money must be flowing in. I don't think PLS burn, the bridge tracker, must be updating too much, but I'm seeing values take a big tick up here just as we're talking. Pulse actually now is at 4 zeros and an 8.4. Pulse X it was up over the 4 zeros and a 2 now, actually, a moment ago. Uh, yeah, everything just took a nice little bounce up. So we'll see. It looks like maybe some money's starting to free up here. So that would be a good sign. I personally, and maybe it's just how I like to do things, but I'm kind of more looking myself, and maybe it's just because of the specific gains I'm looking at in this market right now. But I think I kind of want to be at a third of each one of those assets, like between eHEX and pHEX. I'm kind of just putting in the bucket of hex, and assuming that there's going to be price parity. But between Pulse and Pulse X, I kind of want to have 33% of each one of those, I think, in there. But that sounds all terrific in an ideal world, but we're going to see, as we already have, massive fluctuations in this stuff,
Yeah.
and there's going to be nonsensical, like times where it's totally this is clearly the one to buy, the other one would be nonsensical to buy, if some whale money came in. So that's going to happen, and it's going to be a long time till I would hit any kind of allocation. So that's something to keep in mind too. You can have these like nice little plans that the market just totally
Yeah,
shits on because
exactly. And it's never going to play out the way you want because you're not going to anticipate the the price gains either. So
Hmm.
one coin may go up at first by 100x or whatever, and the other one kind of lags behind. Don't do anything crazy to balance them out, because that could easily be followed by the other coin going up just as much. So,
Right.
don't get upset if your ratio. That's why I don't think it really matters a whole lot. Maybe what you want to start out at, while it's early, but after some time, I don't think that matters a whole lot. Um, you know, I think you get what you can, buy the dips that you can, and you know, try and keep it as even as you think you may want it. But like I said, as the price starts to fluctuate, it's going to throw it all out of whack anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you too. That's just where we're at. This is the first cycle for Pulse and Pulse Chain. Or, yeah, too much Pulse stuff to Pulse Chain and PulseX. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But
Yeah.
if you guys are here and enjoying the show so far, do us a favor and hit the like. We got Pulse Chain live. We're 4 days, 5 days into it here. We got bridge talk going on. It looks like money is starting to pour in. So if you still have something waiting on that bridge, keep looking at it because it's going to get there eventually. So
And we
yeah.
shaved a beard.
We got the beard shaven. I was going to say a moment ago, I do really like the length now, and I'm talking about the beard. It's definitely looking
Ah,
good. No,
glad
it,
you
it does.
clarified that.
Yeah, it does look good. I haven't seen you without the long one, obviously. And I mean, how long did you have that length of the beard? I mean, it looked like it had been at the length it was for probably 6 months. I feel like there's like a point of diminishing returns with the beard at some point.
So it was really getting thick underneath.
Mhm, yeah.
The what was up front really didn't
Girth.
grow. Yeah, the girth was just, it was getting pretty girthy underneath there. So,
Yeah.
um, but when I would like brush it out, it was a lot longer than what it is. And I had just trimmed it
Mm.
up a little bit the other day. Took the flyaways off of it, and
Ah, there you go.
everything as well. But yeah, I mean, I have to get it a little closer in the mirror when I'm not in reverse on the camera. That was a little
True.
difficult.
You did an admirable job, I will say. I mean, it looks from my vantage point, it looks pretty even anyway. So
Yeah,
definitely good. I don't see any blood anywhere, so that's
no
good.
blood, no blood. That's always a good
Yeah.
thing.
The last thing I want to get to here tonight, and I think this is a big thing. Now, again, a lot of people watching and a lot of people that were just hexagons and pulsicons, whatever else, that may just be in the Richard Hart ecosystem aren't really worried about this. But I am really intrigued by what could happen with some of these other non-RH ERC-20 copies. And not to necessarily get into like every single one, obviously, because there's thousands, but what the different communities may be. But in your mind, just thinking of some coins maybe in the top 100 or so, I've seen people that are smart people that have a high level conviction that they were like, "Hey, as soon as I get these, I'm dumping them. Like, I want to get Pulse, I want to get PulseX. I don't care what it is. That I don't think they'll ever hold any value or anything significant on Pulse, and they'll probably just go down in value over time quickly. And I want to get out of them and get into PulseX right away." I've also seen other people that are taking it more on a case by case basis and looking at like what this specific community is and thinking that, hey, this could really go somewhere and could really run eventually. It's going to take a while, let people find out what PulseChain is and then go. What are kind of your general thoughts on it, Ewok? And maybe I'm asking the wrong guy because I know you don't really have many allocations to much else, but how would you go about it, do you think? And then I can talk about how I literally have gone about it with some of mine. But I think it's a conundrum for some people because I will tell you, as somebody that had other ERC-20 copies, when I saw that I could get like millions of Pulse and PulseX, it was hard to resist that. So, what's your idea on it?
I think some of these bigger communities will get wind of it, um, especially if the ETH fees get out of hand again. Like, I know they've come back down a little bit. I think they were around 30 or 40, now back up to 55. So that's going to play in our favor, I really think. And so right now, I haven't seen a whole lot of advertising to these other communities yet, only
Mhm.
because we want to get the network under control, get the bridge under control, make sure that everything's working good before you start, pushing other communities in here and then getting their transactional weight too. So, but I think once that happens, you could see some of these bigger communities come along.
Hmm.
I think I think uh,
Shiba.
I think Shiba will come. I think Matic will probably come.
You think? See, that one I didn't think because they're more kind of big money, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I could see it. I could see some of these meme coins going crazy.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, Pepe is already in there. There's some other weird. We always know that the Zen people are everywhere.
Of
So
course. Yeah.
um and then you've got a lot of our other stuff like the Texan token, and you've got the weight token. And don't forget, by the way, speaking of weight, while I'm thinking about it, if you claimed your weight tokens before PulseChain launched, um, don't forget to convert them over to version 2. You have a couple days, I think, until the ratio starts to go down. Plus, you want to collect your midnight bonus, and that's all the people that didn't convert or claim their stuff. So make sure you take care of that if you're, interested in the weight token. I like what the guys from Coast or Coast and those guys are doing. Hopefully, they provide us a nicer onboard straight into Pulse Chain. And those weight tokens are supposed to be a money saver on that side of things. So don't forget about that. I almost forgot to mention that. So
Yeah, that's a good call for sure. As far as like some of the other, I guess, like regular crypto market tokens, I know I've called out Chainlink before because you and I talked about it. I mean, that is one of the better communities in crypto for
yep,
sure. I think it'll do well. But I just don't know. I mean, like maybe Cardano. I don't know. I think anything where the community is pretty good. If you got copies of those, I'd probably be inclined to hang on to them for the most part. But again, you can always hedge your bets and maybe just sell half. Like if
sure,
you think about, it's up to the individual situation. If you didn't get a chance to sacrifice for either of these or nowhere near as much as you wanted to, and you're panicking or whatever, if it's going to make you feel better and sleep better at night to sell a quarter to a half of an ERC-20 that you don't think is going to gather adoption or anything. Like, for example, I had some Aave that came over, and the more I thought about it, and with me wanting to buy some Pulse right away, I was like, do I think the Aave token on Pulse Chain is ever going to be anything great? And I ultimately, over a couple of days, decided I wanted Pulse more than that, and I sold it all for Pulse. So,
yeah,
you know, I'm
yeah.
not doing
And
that with all
so
mine.
one of the things that are going to be interesting too is the incentive token. I think is still voted on as a DAO kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it's going to fluctuate as we want more communities. That's another way to entice people to put liquidity into the market, is say, hey, look guys, you bridge your value over here, pair it up with the free ones that you got, provide liquidity, and look at these incentive tokens that you're going to earn. You're earning 3,000% or whatever it is. Crazy. This doesn't last too awful long, but it is
Hmm.
a good way to get um, it's a good way to get liquidity built up. It's a good way for people to experience the network, and it's a good way to, hopefully, if you can kind of get parity between the two. That's ideally, if we can get parity with a lot of these coins on what their regular price is. That's a win-win, because it's going to draw people over and say, well, shit, it's much cheaper to transact over here. I got the same value, and then if I want to get out, I can always bridge it back out if I have to. So um yeah, there's lots of good things can come of giving them that free copy. And until a lot of them find out about it too, there's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of things that happen until people even realize that they have some of these free copies.
True. Definitely, yeah, and that's an interesting thing too, and that may be a case to not just, go out and sell every single one of them because these communities won't even know it for quite some time.
Right.
I mean, months, maybe a year even.
Yeah.
So once they do, and the reason I brought, something like Chainlink, which everybody affectionately calls Painlink, even the people in the community, because it's just been in the same range for so long, to know that like, oh, hey, you got free tokens on a cheaper, better chain that you could pump the price of,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. To me, it would be, to me, it would be appealing to anybody, obviously, but
Would
they
think
have to
so.
have the knowledge. They need to know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's our job. That's, we
right.
become the educators at that point, and we have to do it. We have
Mhm.
to literally, once, like I said, once things settle down, I can see our community kind of getting the word out there. Maybe,
Mhm.
maybe not. I don't know. It's weird to think about because the hex community is very tight. They're very anti other stuff, but at the same time, there are the people that want to see Pulse succeed and want to see it be the chain that it can be.
Mhm.
Um, and in which case, we need those other communities to join us over here. Um, Hopefully, they find Hex when they do that. And I think, it could only be a benefit if even if they don't buy the Hex, they're still helping with the burn of PulseX and PulseChain and
Mhm.
supporting the validator burns that are happening. So, it's a win-win. I just hope that communities don't clash too much because it could be a bad thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, that frankly, that is the least of our concerns at the
Yeah,
moment, but
at this point, yeah,
yeah, it's definitely interesting though, and something to keep your eye on over time. I'm holding on to a lot of mine also, and we'll see where it goes. But we do have some unclogging happening. We're up over 21% now. Yeah,
woohoo,
a decent, about 500K just came in over the last 20 minutes. So that's why we're starting to see some prices tick up here. So not anywhere near sack price yet, but it's not going to be too long. And I'm just sitting here really hoping my shit gets over the bridge here soon. So if I still think the move, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to bridge something right now. It's just
nope,
make sure you choose what it is you want to bridge, and you may
and
still have to be patient when you get over there.
yeah, just don't get upset when it doesn't happen right away. I mean,
Mhm,
again, there's people probably been waiting 2 days for
mhm.
some of this stuff. So be patient. That's the biggest thing that you can have is patience. Nobody stole your money. It's not gone. It's not hacked. It's they're in the process of getting all of these transactions approved.
And the biggest thing is to zoom out, like Ewok said at the beginning of the show. Look at this as an opportunity because it absolutely is. When things are harder like this to get in, and there's a line wrapped out, behind 2 blocks down from where you're trying to get in, this is a good thing. I mean, like this is when the fact that you can even buy under sack right now, which nobody thought would ever even really happen, or you may not have a shot at anyway,
Right.
is a huge opportunity. So if you want to get ahead of it, bridge something over like we've done, and then we're just going to kind of wait it out, see how things look on the other side. So
Yep.
I think that pretty much covers it, Ewok, unless you wanted
Yeah.
to add anything else. I feel like we probably could even go another hour on
We
stuff if we
probably
really
could
wanted
because we
to.
haven't talked about Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of what else is going on. Not that we really care at this
I
point.
don't care. Yeah,
But those coins are just kind of chilling,
they're
not
there.
doing anything. They're there, nothing's different. So there you go.
Mhm.
We talked about it.
Yeah, they're there, and they do seem to be kind of coming out of their recent slumber and tick down. Most of the market seems to be recovering a little bit.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's up over 27K, ETH is over 1,800, and I think we're going to get into a new kind of 60-day cycle here, and things will look solid. In terms of macroeconomic crap, June 14th is the next FOMC meeting, so we'll see if we do get one more rate hike there or what happens. But we've talked about this. I don't think the greater crypto community really cares too much about any of that anymore. So
No. And I don't know if you saw Miguel's last stream or a couple, but he's claiming that they're saying that there's going to be two more rate hikes.
yeah,
So
well, um, we've talked about that being the absolute like max
mm,
amount. I remember
worst case.
saying.
Yep. Worst case scenario.
Yeah, I remember saying that like the July meeting at the absolute worst would be the last one in my opinion. So we'll see. And I'm sure that would probably mean 2 more 25-point rate hikes. But yeah, after that, I can't imagine it anymore. There's just going to be too much damage coming, and they're just going to have to ease off here and start printing money again and undo everything that they, just unmess this mess with another mess, and then keep the mess cycle going, basically. So,
yeah, they can't do it without printing more money. So,
yeah. So,
yeah,
we are here every single
smash the
Wednesday.
like button,
Smash
subscribe.
Smash it. I'm seeing 6 likes right now. I mean, I don't.
Now we have 14 viewers and 6 likes, man.
Yeah, I
Something's not
don't.
right.
First off, to all of you, I don't know how to say this. For everybody not watching right now, we just want to say fuck you. And but no, we do usually have slightly better shows than this. But hey, it's a longevity thing. The longer that we're here, actually, right after I curse them out, they're starting to pour in. It looks like here. So, but yeah, we appreciate you guys being along for the ride. We're really excited about this PulseChain ride. We do this every single Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to continue to be breaking down Pulse and everything that's going on with it here for the foreseeable future. And I'll say right now, the one thing, people might say or see our show or something like that and think like, well, there's plenty of people streaming. They do it every single day. Why would I come to this one? I truthfully believe that you and I'm going to toot our own horn. I do think that we offer a more measured approach than most other streams. I think that we're able to just kind of, cool out, reel things back in, not get reactionary about stuff. Don't have any drama or anything going on.
I like our banter. I like our banter. I think we complement each other with a lot of different things, and sometimes counteract each other too. But yeah, I agree. Everybody kind of reaches out to streamers and get what they like. Everybody kind of appeals to everybody different. So it's good that we've got variety. But yeah, I mean, I have fun doing it. I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy answering the questions. Hopefully we've helped people along the way too, so.
Yeah, I think so. And it's going to be a Pulse-centric show for a lot of time to come. So be patient, guys, if you're bridging stuff over, and don't do anything we wouldn't do. So, all right. Well, we will be back next Wednesday, same time, same channel, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be the 24th of May at that time. So until then, and for my co-host Crypto Ewok, this has been Boi Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto Podcasts. Take it easy.